All right, appreciate you watching. The goal of this training is to give you an on-demand version of my sales presentation and a little bit of insight as to how we operate our agency and how I recommend you operate your individual agency, your business in the midst of the sales presentation. Again, this isn't a fully perfect and polished slideshow presentation, but I want to at least put it on the record and put it out there so that as you're getting ready to get started in your sales journey with us, or maybe you're watching this a little bit after you got started, or maybe you're watching this to remind yourself of some of these key tips. They are here, ready, and available for you on demand. So again, my name is Chris. I run and own our agency here, Loyal Insurance, and it's been a pleasure to partner with you. And I would encourage you as you watch this to take notes. I can give you some scripting, I can give you some guidance, but the mind remembers only so much. The pen remembers even more. So let's get started. First on the list here is my goal on this is to go over our sales presentation, but also to make sure that you understand there are several different successful sales presentations. There are a myriad of different sales scripts that can be just as equally successful. I'm going to give you a little bit of insight on mine. You'll learn a little bit from some others that we have connections with and partnerships with. But no script is perfect. In fact, no script is perfect, especially if you don't work it. And the most important thing is your attitude and your activity. So let's talk briefly about preparation. Before we get into what specifically to say or how the presentation is structured, I want to talk a little bit about preparing. Preparation breeds success. Preparation breeds stability. Preparation makes you feel more confident and will make you more money. So here's a little bit about preparation. Number one, the Friday before you get started. Sorry, I think I didn't even say that right. The Friday before the week starts. Again, you can be working the full day. It doesn't need to be some kind of made up off day. If you know you need money, you should be working. And I for sure, for the first several years as I started in the business, worked Friday just like I worked every other weekday. Friday night before, after everything is said and done, what you want to do is check in with me and make sure you are aware as to where you will be accessing your leads for next week. Every so often we make adjustments, improvements, and such, and you want to make sure you are very clear as to where you will be accessing your leads for next week. You want to make sure you let me know if there's any specific needs that you need from me. We'll go over any highlights, what worked, or what you might need particular help with. Second, on Saturday and Sunday. Now, of course, if you need to make money and you had a regular job, what would you do? You'd get a second job. You'd pick up an overtime shift. You'd work a side hustle or Uber groceries or whatever it would take to pay the bills, right? I see it. I know it. I've been there. Saturday and Sunday, in many cases, can just as easily be the same thing with this business. Overtime. Put in the extra time. Catch up on the stuff that you need to get done, make a little bit of extra money, and set yourself up for next week. Alternatively, what else needs to be done is this. Review your income. Like how much money was deposited into your bank account from the prior week. Basic business skills. Second, how much money did you spend? If you don't know how much you made and how much you spent, you're not running a business. This is simply a hobby. I wish somebody would have told me this a lot earlier. I would have run a lot more efficient operations, but I'm telling you this right now. Next, write out your thank you cards for anyone you sold a policy to last week. It's really simple. Maybe one day we'll have something fancier, but this is all that you need to do. Go on to Amazon, search Hallmark thank you cards, and buy them. We can set you up with business cards, and I can explain how a business card magnet works, but I don't care if you sold one policy last week or 50. Take the time, handwrite out some thank you cards, put on a stamp, and send it to Miss Johnson. When you're selling, especially brand new, I don't care if it's over the phone or in the field, the quality of business that you write needs to be good. And one of the best ways to build quality in the business is an old school thank you card. Next, prepare your schedule for next week. What days are you working? What hours are you working? Write it down. If it has to be on a Google Calendar, an iCalendar, a Sky Calendar on your wall, a paper calendar. Somewhere it needs to be clear what you said that you're going to do. Share it with me. Let me know what you're going to do so I can be extra present when I know that you're working, which should be a lot of the time, right? Share your schedule with whoever you're living with, married to, cohabitate with, or who schedule is interdependent on yours. You need that person, your significant other, your spouse, whoever is your second in life on your side. And one of the best ways to make sure they are in your corner and on your side is to share and collaborate on that schedule. Take a break. It's okay once everything is set and prepared to take a time with yourself, whoever is important to you, rest, reset, and then the next week begins. Number 3, when it comes to preparation, 6 a.m. until our morning call at 9 a.m. Eastern is an amazing time to prepare. Now, of course, it might be busy at your house just like it is at mine. There's any number of different kids that have to get to any number of different schools here. Plenty of stuff that happens throughout the course of the day, especially in the morning. But you can also use the morning to be your best time to prepare. 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Schedule your leads, what you did, what you need to do, put everything in order, make sure it's ready. Whatever it takes to make sure that once the 9 o'clock time hits, our call begins, you're there, you're engaged, and after it ends, you're ready to work. Pretty simple, right? Next, let's talk about the presentation. Now, again, there are many different ways to do a final expense presentation. There isn't one way that's better than any other. There are plenty of successful presentations. If you haven't gotten the point yet, I'm going to give you a breakdown, kind of high level, maybe somewhere in the middle, of my sales presentation. Again, this sales presentation isn't all that dramatically different than what I would have done in person. The sales presentation that I do in person is recorded in a very low quality, no production based version on YouTube. Go to the YouTube channel and look for the sales presentation videos. This isn't going to be all that different because guess what? The product is not any different. The people aren't any different. The leads, maybe in remote sales, are a little bit more high intent, but the whole thing isn't all that different. So let's talk about it. Presentation structure, step number 1, the introduction. Now, either on the phone or literally face-to-face in front of them at their home, the first 120 seconds is super important. Your job in that first 2 minutes is to either keep them on the phone or get into the home. Plain and simple. Get them on the phone and keep them there. In fact, if they hang up right away, call them back. And again, what you specifically say here, there are plenty of ways to do it. What I do sounds a little bit like this. Hey, Ms. Johnson, this is Chris. You had just recently filled out a form on Facebook. In the last hour, maybe the last couple hours, it was specifically about the final expense coverage for seniors, and you put down your favorite hobby is this, or your birthday is that, or you're in the state of this. Something that confirms you know something about them, and then they have to say yes at the door. Hey, Ms. Johnson, I'm Chris. Good to meet you. We had actually received the card you had sent in, holding up the lead on your computer. Good news is you qualified for the program. I just need a few minutes to go over it with you. If you're showing up for a preset appointment, hey, I'm Chris. I'm here for that 11 o'clock. How's your day? And they're going to let you in the home. It's that assumptive attitude that you're there to do something because there's something they asked for help with. Next, what's important to understand in the presentation structure is your what and why. No, not your what and why, but theirs. You're a problem solver. You are a problem finder. I wrote you're a problem solver or problem. Yeah, okay, I wrote that right. You're a problem solver or a problem finder, not a salesperson. People might feel like you're trying to sell them something, and that might be an attitude issue on your part, but you have to remind yourself, like really at the core of what you're doing, when you sell final expense, they can't do anything with it. They're going to be dead. Hence, I believe that you're not selling, but consulting, but helping, but finding the problem and solving the problem. What do I mean when it comes to the presentation though? You got to figure out what brought you here in their home or over the phone. Ms. Johnson, what happened recently that had you thinking about insurance? Let them answer. Had something particular happen that caused you to have filled this out? Let them answer the question. What is the why here? The why is, why are you in this moment, in this conversation? And once you have that information, you got something to do with it. We're also going to mention at some point, I do believe, the beneficiary. Who? Who is it for? Early on in the conversation, I believe it's in the next slide. And if it's not, you got to figure out who this is for. You got to get them to say the name. You got to write it down. You have to use it. They can't say who it would be for. You got a problem. Next, pre-qualification. What is this? Pre-qualification is making sure that they make their own decisions. Generally, these people do 98% of the time, and don't let them tell you otherwise. But if you're selling over the phone, and this kind of speaks specifically into a Medicare presentation, you want to have on the recording that they have said that they make their own decisions. Now, if they say something about their daughter, their friend, their cousin, you can dive in a little bit deeper about, do they provide you help, or do we really need to get them in this conversation? You want to get it on the recording, or making sure in person, you kind of get a feel for that anyway. Next, if you are recording your call, which you should be if you're selling over the phone, you got to make them aware. Ms. Johnson, just as you're aware, for quality and compliance purposes, this call is being recorded. Is it okay if we continue that way? You got to say that in the Medicare presentation. You don't have to say that in a life insurance presentation, but I think legally, if you're recording them, you have to tell them. And the more official this is structured, the less you're going to get resistance about if this is real. Obviously, you don't need to record anything in person because you're in person and you have a different level of credibility looking right at them. Next, during pre-qualification, you need to find out if the person can buy what you're selling. Ms. Johnson, when you get your Social Security, I'm assuming that's by direct deposit, right? It is. Good. And does that go to a regular bank or something different? A bank. Perfect. Just making sure. There are some folks that receive their money on a green Direct Express debit card. No worries if that's you. I just got to know which is which. Ask them if you're selling over the phone, is this a cell phone that I'm talking to you on? You're very likely going to have to send them a text message at some point, and you'd probably like to know if they're on a house phone as soon as possible. Not that that's a knockout situation, but you'd like to find that out. Next, if you are selling in person, you've got the power of being able to present to them your license in your sales binder. It's a 1/2-inch white binder you can buy on Amazon or at a store. Get those plastic sheet protectors, put your license, pictures of your family and such inside of it, and it's very simple. Over the phone, you don't have that, and that's okay. This is what I've been doing, and it works just as well. Ms. Johnson, go ahead and grab a pen and paper so you can write down my name so you know who you spoke with. Let me know when you got that. They come back with a pen and paper, and what you've also done at that moment is you put something in their hands to be able to take notes. You put something in their hands so they're not scrolling Etsy instead of you, and you can now provide them your name, your national producer number, and your direct phone number or whatever phone number you choose to provide. Again, if you're selling in person, you have the power of showing them your sales binder, which is pretty simple. This is my license here from the state of Pennsylvania. State of Pennsylvania, as well as Maryland, New Jersey, and quite a few others, entrust me with the care of seniors with these programs. Here's a picture of my family, and then you say something funny. Not make a joke about them, but something to lighten the mood. Now, let's continue forward. Presentation structure. Now, it's also important, now that you know that the person that you're sitting with or speaking to has the ability to buy something from you, that you're aware that connection and rapport is important. Again, you can't really put a time on this. You can't really put a specific measurement on this, but you can tell. You want to look to find some human connection, some common ground. You want to have a good tonality and conversation that gets them into rapport and gets them laughing and interested. A little rapport goes a very long way and helps you make sure that you're maintaining call control. Again, you don't need to take forever, but you need to be thinking, in this first 5 to 7 minutes, have I established some kind of common ground? Just the same way if you're presenting in person, establishing a rapport is key. Watching body language, see if they relax, see if they laugh, make some kind of connection so you can continue forward. Now, field underwriting. Again, over the phone, things get a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more fast-paced. Well, not really, but we kind of dive into it a little bit quicker. At this point, after I've already pre-qualified that they can buy what I'm selling. They've written down my name. They know what I'm calling about because they literally, very likely, just filled out a lead about it. I want to get starting to the point. Ms. Johnson, go ahead and grab your medications, or I'll simply ask them. Now, let me get a little bit of information, a little bit about you, so we can figure out what you might qualify for. I have my client data sheet printed out and in front of me, or if I'm in person, I take it out of my binder. I ask them the common 5 to 7 medical conditions that you can see on that client data sheet. I ask them their medications. Go ahead and just spell them. Nobody else can pronounce these, but just go ahead and spell them out for me. And I figure out a little bit about their health. Next, it's important, especially when you are brand new, in my opinion, to make sure in the situation where this person doesn't currently have any insurance, to remove the common objections, the common reasons that might keep that person from saying yes. You control it when you bring it up first. So it looks a little bit like this. Ms. Johnson, let me tell you a little bit about how I help people, just so you kind of learn the difference. First, all that insurance you see on TV from companies like Colonial Penn and such are whole life, the right kind of insurance. But all the insurance you see on TV is way more expensive than the kind you can get in person. Why that is pretty simple. In person, or with me, for example, is because all those TV commercial companies spend so much money on advertising, they have to charge you more to make up the difference. And you probably don't want to pay more than you need to, right? Again, you're not just preaching at them, you want a reciprocal answer so you know they're listening. Next, I'm sure you've seen these before in the mail. There are a lot of programs from companies like AARP, Globe Life, maybe even your bank and credit union. And these are term life. And do you know how those work? Opportunity for engagement. It doesn't matter what they say, because then you say this. Well, great. How term life works, like you may know, is it starts off really cheap, but as you get older, it gets more expensive. And then term life typically ends at the age of 80. And you probably don't want your insurance to end before you do, right? No. Again, this is really not all that different from over the phone to in person. You're removing all of the common barriers that may have left them out there for later. Now, my job's pretty simple. I represent all the best options available for you in whatever state that they're in, so I can take a look at you and your health and then figure out what the very best option is. Again, you may have already gotten their medications, or if you've forgotten, here is another really good segue for you to say, go ahead and grab your medication so I can see what you might qualify for. Now, we've got 2 different ways we can do this. And again, you pick one and just learn it, master it, and do it. But in the era of e-applications, you can really turn this part upside, or you can flip-flop these parts of the presentation, and it works either way. I've worked them either way. And especially if you're selling over the phone and you know you're not going to get a second or third chance to get somebody approved, you could potentially do it this way based off of your preference and the application structure. So now here's one way to do it. Now, if the application allows you to gather basically most of the information before you get to bank, beneficiary, and such, you can do it this way. Ms. Johnson, let me tell you a little bit about how things used to work. You know, when I started in this industry, or when our agency started, if you're brand new, many, many years ago, over a decade, things were a lot different, just like they were for you in life, right? Agreement. Back then, we would collect a paper application face to face. We would fill it out, send it in, and then hope in a couple of days we found out if what you wanted is what you got approved for. Sometimes you did, and sometimes you didn't. Nowadays, thankfully, it's a lot easier. What I'm going to do is gather some basic personal information, put it in the application, and we're going to find out if you qualified for an A rating, a B rating, or a C rating. Any one of those is okay because it's you. And once we find out what you've been approved for, we'll go over the options. We'll know for certain. There won't be any second guessing. And then we'll figure out what works best for you. Does that make sense? Good. So then you just proceed with the application. Using carriers like the iCover platform, you don't need the bank information until the end. Using the Transamerica Express platform, you don't need the bank information until the end. Already been approved, then you're collecting bank information. Using other carriers like Americo, for example, You don't need the bank information until you've already gotten the approval. So if you know the app process that the favorite companies we use and you use, you don't need the bank information until you've already gotten an approval, and you can walk them through that approval just the same way. The other way is the more traditional in reverse methodology, and it's simply showing them a 3-option close and then going through the application. Either one of those works, you just got to pick one. I'd recommend, though, if you're selling over the phone and you're brand new to underwriting, get an approval and then show them their options. So, how does it work the other way? Or how do you show price and close? Pretty simple. I recommend one common way is to show them the same numbers all the time. Now, I know there are a lot of different ways to do this. There's showing the top numbers and then working your way down. That's called top-down selling. They're selling to a need. Do they want to be buried, cremated, shot into space? Who knows? Nothing wrong with either of those two methodologies. Here's one that I feel most confident with. Show price and close that ends with an option around $50 a month, whatever the face amount of that would get them. An option around $75 a month. An option around $100. Our agency's average premium is typically about $75 a month. Last week, at the recording of this video, our average premium was over $90. These numbers work. So when you're showing a 3-option close, what you also need to make sure that you're doing is going over the words on the back of the client data sheet or showing it to them. Ms. Johnson, remember what I'm going to show you, and this is written there on the form, is whole life insurance from the best company you qualified for. With that, the price you pick out never ever increases. Policy never cancels because you get older or sicker. It builds cash value, and in many cases, if you're diagnosed terminally ill, you can get that money ahead of time. Now, I'm going to show you 3 of the most popular plans folks pick. You let me know which one of these works the best for you. Now, in person, you're physically showing it to them. Over the phone, I would add the following. I'm going to again show you 3 options. What I want you to do is write them down. I'm going to give them to you nice and slow, so don't feel rushed. I'm going to give you an option for this, and then write it down. Then I'm going to give you the next one, write it down. Then I'm going to give you the next one, write it down. Don't look them over until you got them all in front of you, and then once you have them, look them over and tell me which one works best for you. Next, complete the application, either because you're doing it before the 3 options or you're doing it after they pick their option. But remember, when you're gathering information that might seem unusual to you, it's not. They're applying for a financial product. I have to verify their identity, their health. They are who they said they were, and this isn't weird to ask them any of this information. If you make it weird, though, it's going to be a problem. What do? I always ask for things like the social security number after the phone number. Again, sometimes the application rhythm and the application flow might be different, but I do it the same way every time. I ask them phone number, okay, and your social. I don't say, and what is your social security number? I make it casual as a part of the conversation, and typically there's very little resistance. Now, if you do have some resistance over the phone, the first thing you can do is just simply shut up. Give it a moment or two for them to work through whatever's in their head that came out of their mouth. And once they resolve it, in many cases, they'll just give it to you. If they still present some level of resistance and they say something like, well, how do I know you are who you say you were? Perfect question. Again, like in the very beginning, I had given you my license number, and I'm happy to text you a picture of that if that would help. Okay? Remember, I also don't know who you are. So as much as you feel the same way, I need to verify that you are who you said you were either. So go ahead with that social again. You just have to assume in the answer and then give them the question all over again. When it comes to completing the application, if you get some resistance about the bank information, maybe you just asked for it weirdly and incorrectly. Again, who was it that you banked with again? Perfect. A PNC bank. And that was opened in the state of whatever state they're in, right? Great. While I'm looking up the routing number in the system here, do you need to go ahead and grab your banking information, or do you have it within arm's reach? All right, let me go find it. Perfect. Remember, again, unless it's a direct express card, we don't accept debit cards. And how do you know which is which? Well, look at your own debit card and the series of numbers. If it's like 4 numbers and then 4 numbers and then you get the point, they might have given you a debit number by accident. Account numbers, you should have a pretty clear idea if it is. And many of the applications we use won't let you put in incorrect information anyway. So make sure you get the correct information. Finally, as you finish your sales presentation, you want to warm down and close. Like take off the sales pressure, ease your way out of the conversation. Don't cut and run. What I want to do in this situation is give them a chance to voice any concerns. Ms. Johnson, before we go, want to quickly go over what we did, want to provide them the policy information, what's going to happen next. This all kind of pushes itself together. And I want to make sure, do you have any questions about what we did? Any concerns? You feel like you've gotten it all written down? Good. What's going to happen next is I'm going to send out to you an old school Hallmark thank you card. In that card is going to be my business card magnet. Just as if I was there in person and put it on your fridge, you'll have one pretty soon. In that card, I'll write down what we did and why we did it for a reminder and encourage you to give me a call back so we can check in and go over it a second time if needed. If you're doing this in person, you're going to give them any of the brochures that the carrier provides you. If you're not sure how to get that, please let me know. If you need a generic one, we have those as well. You want to make sure they have something tangible from the end of what you and them just did. All right, now, remember, your key responsibilities are this. Number 1, activity. Your goal is to do 500 dials a day if you're selling over the phone, 25 door knocks if you're in person, whatever activity necessary to be giving for sales presentations. The goal is that over the course of those 500 dials max, those 4 presentations, you've written 2 applications. Next, your responsibility is to assume. Not assume what they can and can't afford, who will and who won't buy, but to assume you're going to sell to the person you're speaking to. Like, why else are you talking to them? Why else are you in their home? Assume that they've requested the information because they have, and it is your responsibility to do something. And number 3, your responsibility in the sales presentation is to have them take action. Speak action into what you've done. Be the action. Inspire emotion. Again, don't become an emotional roller coaster yourself, but be the one that moves them to action. And remember, you're not going to sell anything if you aren't putting in the time necessary. And if you haven't put in a full day's work and there's nothing to show for it at the end, there's no one to blame but the fact that you didn't work enough. Next, you have to remember in the presentation that you need to uncover why. Uncover without weirdly asking what brought them and you into this moment in time. Ms. Johnson, what happened recently that had you filling these forms out online? Is it that you needed more coverage or don't have any? Again, it's very helpful to ask a question at the end to yield an answer. On a Medicare presentation, I might often ask, were you looking to see if you qualified for additional benefits, or is there something wrong or you're having a problem with your current plan? Answer. You want to give them information and then ask a question so they can answer and further the conversation. Next, who? When it comes to life insurance, who is this for? Ms. Johnson, if you had insurance, who would we put down as the beneficiary? Okay. And if you didn't have insurance, how would they afford a funeral? They wouldn't. They couldn't. Okay. So that's probably what we're trying to prevent today, right? Got it. They say to you, well, my kids could pay for it and I don't think I need it. And they'll just write the check. You probably don't have much to work with there. And that's okay. But what you're looking to do is ask them a question that gives you an answer that is beneficial to what you're trying to do. If you had insurance, who would it be for? Got it? And if you didn't, how would Sally pay for this funeral? She couldn't. All right, so let's get this taken care of, right? And then why? Like, why got you and them into this moment? All right, real briefly, our target market is professional procrastinators. I mean this in a respectful manner. You have to look at these folks as if they are first graders with a source of income. A source of income, Social Security, for example, but you can't look at them like you're mom and pop and meemaw and pop or whatever. I heard a girl say that once. These aren't like my meemaw. No, they ain't. You got to look at them as someone that needs guidance, needs direction, who's asked for your help, and you're there to professionally provide it. Again, some people may say no, but if you look at them and understand that they've asked for help, they're typically procrastinators, and you're there to take them to action, you'll get more done. Remember, many of the folks that you sit with or speak to on the phone were salt of the earth, blue collar, hard workers. Again, maybe not always the case, but many of them spent their working years being told what to do. In whatever jobs they held, they were the doers of that job. They weren't the decision makers. They weren't C-suite executives or plant managers or operational whatevers. They were the doers. And that's a beautiful thing. But what you have to understand is they aren't used to being decision makers. And they oftentimes need to be led into that decision, which is ethically perfectly fine. All right, we got 2 more slides. The tools. Let's talk about the tools you're going to be equipped with to get started. Our goal here is to keep this incredibly simple for you so you have what you need and we can add on to it as your skill and time permits. The tools you have may come all at once. They may come one day and then the next. They may come as an ever-expanding portfolio of what you have, but let's keep it simple to start. The carrier quoting tools. You'll want to make sure that you download onto your device and use and understand how to use the quoting tools that are all available for the carriers you sell. Typically, that's going to be Old American on the East Coast, Security National across the country, Trusted Fraternal, and American Amicable. Have access to and understand how to get to their quoting tools. We will add Insurance Toolkit for you when we feel it is the time and the place. Insurance Toolkit is a great product that allows you to quote everything, all the companies ever. It allows you to quote and compare multiple things at the same time and even get underwriting assistance. But you need to learn your core companies first, what they do and what they don't, what they take and what they won't, before that information is spoon-fed to you. If you don't learn it in the beginning, you won't, and you won't be the best agent you can. Next, we're going to get you access to Ashley and her Amplify sales coaching program. We partner with Ashley for a second level of assistance and support for our remote agents, and her scripting and her style might be slightly different. This might be noticeably different than what I discussed here with you today, but there are, again, many successful scripts. I'm simply providing you guidance on what works with me so that you don't feel like you have any barrier to get started and to get selling. Next tool is our Enroll Here dialer. Part of your tech fee to partner with us is to pay for your access to this. This Enroll Here dialer serves as your phone, or ain't nothing wrong with using your phone on occasion too. Your phone in Enroll Here is the best way for you to dial out, track your data, see your numbers, and provide real-time support. As in, if you're in a sale over the phone and you're dialed into Enroll Here, I could join in, listen in, or step in at a moment's notice. Next, important tool. In fact, this might be the most important. The 9 a.m. daily training. Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern, we get together for a brief 30 minutes. This is a must. Again, you're 1099. I legally can't say must, but you get the point, right? Your clock-in moment of the day where our agency gets together. We go over the trainings of the day, the numbers, the news, highlight who deserves a moment of spotlight time. And these agents know more, hear more, learn more, and they make more. And let me make this very clear. Agents that are on our trainings get priority assistance, priority support, and I will help them before I help someone that isn't showing up for themselves or with us. Our lead hub, built on the chassis of Go High Level, might be different looking, might be something different, but this is where you're going to get your leads. Again, we budget on the partnership program, $800 a week per agent. Of course, these agents have to be active. They have to be selling. They have to be doing the things we discussed to continue to get access to each week's fresh set of leads. And if they're not, you might be working some secondhand stuff to play catch up. So don't put yourself in that position. Last but not least this morning, or whenever you're watching today's training, remember, the requirements to remain on fresh leads in the partnership program are very simple. Attend the 9 a.m. trainings. Be a part of what we do. I didn't even fill that section in. I don't need to. You can hear it from me right now. Attend the trainings. Be a part of what we do. Learn, call out your numbers, be accountable, and be around others. 2, communicate. Briefly elaborate on what do I want to discuss? Communicate. Text, call, reach out. Don't take away from selling, but be the squeaky wheel and sell stuff. You got to be producing. These leads cost money and they're great quality. But if you're putting in the time, you will get the results. If you're not, you won't. And we can't provide $800 a week or more per agent, per leads, if that agent isn't producing. So work hard, write business, and we will provide you with everything that no one else in the industry ever will. Thanks for watching. Thanks for partnering with Loyal. And thanks for taking that leap of faith on yourself, knowing that we're here to provide all the support necessary. Now it's your turn to take it, run with it, rewrite your future, buy time, and print money.